You forgot the first rule of remakes, Jill. Don't fuck with the original.
Hey everybody, welcome to a bonus episode of Don't F with the Original.
With Nicholas, I'm the video game correspondent for Idiomatic.
And I am Dimitri, editor-in-chief of Idiomatic.com and movie critic. Not that that's gonna help us in any way. Because today we're talking about music. As a lot of you know, June 21st is International Music Day. So in this bonus episode, what we're gonna do is have a free-flowing conversation about pop song covers and remixes.
Yeah, they don't have remix, because that'd be a little silly.
Yeah, a cover is just a remix with a different singer.
I guess so, because they never use the actual real original music as well, so it is a remix as well. You're right.
Because if they use the original music and a different singer, then it's called sampling. Unless it's Vanilla Ice that's taken something from David Bowie and Queen.
He added a little tss at the end. You hear him in the interview, he had a little tss, so it's not exactly the same thing.
Yeah, okay. So if you add a little tss, then it's called original material.
Exactly.
Or if you take something from Stevie Wonder and add the word gangster to it, suddenly it's your most important work.
That should not be parodied ever.
What are we referring to?
Weird Al. Weird Al decided to make a parody of it called Amish Paradise, and he was completely opposed to it. He was like, no, you can't do that. It's my most serious song, even though it's a remix of another song. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay, but anyway, let's start the episode where it's all about music. I'll admit right away, I am not a music expert. I kind of wish Kazem was still around. She's in Vancouver, enjoying the rain.
Good for her.
So let's start with something I like to call Show and Tell, where we're going to talk about some of our albums that have cover songs in them. Why don't you get us started, Nick?
Well, I'm going to talk about a group called the Mini Bosses. What they do is they basically choose 8-bit songs from the Nintendo era that were great from good games, and they use modern instruments, and they cover those songs. And the result is very impressive. You really feel like it's the song from the video game just played with real instrument. It sounds great. They have 2 albums, one called Mini Bosses and the other one called Brass. So I suggest both of them.
And what are some of your favorite tracks on it?
I like the Mega Man 2. That's probably the best one. The Castlevania one's also great, because the Castlevania was always known to have great music, but really my favorite one is Mega Man 2.
Sounds fun. I actually really like video game music, usually, like especially the 8-bit and 16-bit stuff, because that's the video games I mostly grew up with.
Yeah.
I used to drive my girlfriend absolutely nuts. And I mentioned this to you, which is silly, because you used to help me in doing that.
Yes. I was just following along, man.
Weird, what was it? The Mario level 1-2 underground music that we used to sing.
Yeah.
It was great because when we were with her roommate, we all sang it in canon just to drive my girlfriend nuts. And then when she said enough of that, we started singing the song from the Immortals, the Mortal Kombat theme song, Technotronic, which, somehow that did not calm her nerves in any right way.
Nope. Good times. Good times. What about you, Dimitri?
My recommendation for this little show and tell here, since this all started with a line from Scream 4, I thought I'd get us back to Scream for this little show and tell thingy, and talk about Red Right Hand by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. Now, that song is actually featured in the first 3 Scream movies, a different remix, a different version of it, all 3 of them, and all 3 versions are pretty freaking cool. In fact, for me, they're sort of the theme of Scream. And when Scream 4 started and it didn't have that song, Red Right Hand, I was like, what's going on? I was so confused. And like, throughout the entire movie, like, I kept waiting for that song to show up. It never did, and the credits showed up. I was like, what the hell? What? And I like Scream 4 a lot, but like, part of me was like, this is not a Scream movie. There's no Nick Caves and the Bad Seeds.
They stole the essence.
Totally. Red Right Hand, and totally. It's a great song. And contrary to popular belief, it is not a song about excessive masturbation.
Oh, wow. You had to go there.
Alright, well, on that note, let's start the episode proper. On that tasteful note. And talk about remixes and covers. Well, the first obvious question I have to ask is, do you like remixes and covers, Nick?
No, I don't. And that comes from just empirical data. I've listened to a lot of them, and there hasn't been one that I've liked more than the original. So there's no real point to me in having remixes and covers, since I'm not going to say none of them. Very few of them I've heard are better or, compared to, but most of them are just horrible when you compare them to the original song. And why would I be listening to this when I could just go and listen to the original song?
But aren't we back to that same discussion we had about movies, where does a remake actually have to beat the original, or can it just be its own thing,
It can be its own thing, but it's not like a movie where I'm going to spend 2 hours of my time sitting there watching it. If I hear the song and I'd rather have the original now, companies have all the video clips on YouTube now for promotional purposes. You hear that song and you're like, no, I'd rather listen to the original one. It's like a few seconds. You can just listen to the original one and, other songs from that artist at the same time. So I don't think there's really if you're not going to do a better job of it and people are not going to want to listen to it, they can have access a lot easier to the original one. Put the original one on their iPod instead and stuff like that. So I think you need to have a very good version of it so people can listen to it and not the original one.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really feel the same way because there's quite a few covers that I like. And we're going to talk exclusively about covers because I think remixes are different to a certain degree because it's the same artist. And I do find that the ratio of remixes that are actually better than the original is higher for remixes than for covers.
Yeah.
For example, there's the last album, not the last, but second to last album from The Police, where Sting sort of did a solid to his two friends from The Police and went then like, oh, I'm sorry, do you miss the limelight? I'm sorry, do you miss having fans? Okay, we'll do one more album.
Yeah.
And they redid all their songs, and they didn't want to do a compilation album because Sting was opposed to that. He was like, well, no, we should just re-record them, and they're all different versions and stuff.
Yeah.
And those new versions are generally better. Like Don't Stand So Close to Me, that version, the version that came later was way better than the original one.
I don't find. I actually like I've heard the other version. I like it, but I do find the original better.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I can see what you did. When it's the same artist, they kind of understand their song and they can make it more relevant to the time. Yeah, change up the music, make it more modern, and I can see why that could be better.
Well, even if it's a different producer that never really dealt with the artist, I know there's an Elvis remix that you like.
Yeah, one of the rare exceptions from JXL. A little less conversation, and what they did is they kept Elvis's voice. They just made the music a lot more modern and more poppy. Is that an actual word?
It's really poppy. It's more 70s-ish, I guess.
Yeah, but it sounds, if you listen to that and you compare it to the original Elvis music,
which is very 50s, 60s.
Yeah, and it really puts you, the original music really puts you to sleep. Just listening to the music, but they changed the music, make it a lot more livelier, and they kept Elvis's voice, which is pretty much the essence of it.
If you're gonna buy an album called Elvis #1, it should really have Elvis's voice on it.
Yeah, but the original intent of that song was not to put on Elvis #1. It was added later on.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. It came out. The song came out 2 years before, and then they added like a last minute to the Elvis #1. Okay. But yeah, it was just for them to just remix an Elvis song and make it more modern, and yeah, it works.
Yeah, no, I like that track a lot too. It's we're talking about a little less conversation.
Yeah.
It's a great track.
I agree.
And I think what's great about what the producers did with it is that they captured the essence of Vegas in sort of that rhythm.
Yes, that's true.
And Elvis and Vegas in his later years, way after he sang that song, it just became so attached to one another. So when you hear that and you hear the Vegas beat to it with Elvis's voice, you feel like, yeah, like that's the way the song should have sounded because Elvis is so attached to Vegas now in his dead years.
It's not him marrying people in that chapel there.
No, it's not. It's sort of like Santa Claus. It's not him. It's actual little dwarves taking his place. He has a really big organization. He was taken by aliens.
Okay.
It's a complicated story. I'll tell you about it after the podcast.
All right. Can't wait.
But even for cover songs by different artists, there's a number of them that I actually quite like. Even though I agree with you, they don't necessarily match the original. I like them just as their own creatures. For example, I quite like Chantal Kreviazuk's version of Leaving on a Jet Plane.
Yeah.
Which is the song that she did for Armageddon that no one heard because everybody was singing the Aerosmith thing. But it's actually a really good track. Like, she sings it very well. She has that sort of metal-y double voice thing that a lot of Canadian artists have, which is really neat. And no, I am not going to argue that it's better than the original version, but I just like listening to it just the same, you know?
Okay.
But there's also one from the Canadian Idol winner, or runner-up. I think, no, she lost. She lost to some really effeminate kid.
Oh.
She did! But Teresa Sorkirka, she sings A Good Mother by Jane Archer. And it's sort of, because she's so young, she's, she's still in her early 20s when she's singing that, like just reaching 20 or something like that. It has a different tone, right? Because when Jane Archer, like, she's old. She's an adult.
Yes.
She's a grown-up. So when she sings Good Mother and reflects on, her good parenting and where that's led her in her life, it's from the point of view almost of somebody who's either about to become a mother herself or has become a mother herself and has a different perspective as an adult as to what parenthood brings you. Okay. Whereas when Sorkirka sings it, just because she's younger and has a super young voice, it's already somebody who's already grateful for her parents even while she's still being raised. So it has this completely different tone just because of that. And so it's nice.
That's interesting. I guess that leads us to our next question. What makes a good remix or a good cover?
I think one of the things for this is this is where the don't F with the original does not apply, I think, to a certain degree. I think with cover songs, you have to make it sound like a different entity. Because like you said, if it sounds too much like it, you're just going to compare it to the original. And unlike movies, it's not like, well, it's not in theaters anywhere. Anyway, it's still on MP3 available. It's still available on CD somewhere, most of them. Why not listen to the original,
Yeah.
So you have to make it completely different, a different animal, I think.
Okay. But, I mean, what kind of fan base are you looking for then in that case? In that case, say, I remember, was there an Elvis song that they made like a reggae song? I can't stand Falling in Love with You or something like that, and they turned it completely reggae.
That's what the one, yeah.
Yeah, they did what you did, but I actually like the Elvis song better, and I'm not an Elvis fan. It's just, I don't know, it just sounded weird. And what was the fan base you're going for? You're going for the fan of the actual real song. You're going to different demographics altogether.
I think pop songs always go for the current demographic, whoever's buying music now. You know what I mean? Like, they have to be in trend because that's how they get to the charts and that's how they get to sell albums, concert tickets, whatnot. Nobody's gonna make money to pandering to the old music snobs. You know?
Yeah. Okay.
Because they're out there still buying LPs in New York. I think it's all about modernizing and trying to capture the current trend, I think, when they do that. But I don't think audience is that important. Like, I do think that they have to go in their own direction in the sense that the only way a cover is going to work is if the new performer owns it. When I talk about Teresa Sorkirka singing Good Mother, she's obviously not referring to Jane Archer's song, because, like, who cares? It's Jane Archer.
Yeah.
I'm not saying she's not good. She's actually a quite talented artist, but she's not the sort of person who's like, oh, wow, you just referenced Jane Archer. My mind just got blown. It's like, it's Jane Archer.
You're going to get hundreds of Jane Archer fans are going to write you evil, angry comments.
100 Jane Archer fans? You mean all of them?
Wow.
And again, it's no offense to Jane Archer. Actually, I think she's a talented artist. But it really is about owning it and making it your own so that people should listen to it and not even think of the original. Because as you mentioned, the minute you think of the original, that comparison becomes really hard to beat unless the song was crap to begin with. I think it's more of a question does the artist really just feel like using this song to communicate whatever it is they want to communicate through their album. It's really sort of using those pre-established lyrics and melodies to express something that they really feel like expressing at that point in that song and nothing else. I don't think commercial concerns should go too much into it.
Okay.
Because songs are just 3 to 5 minutes long, so you can use it as part of a vocabulary. It's not like a movie where it's 2 hours long. 2 hours is a sentence, it's a paragraph, it's a text.
Yeah.
3 minutes, you can use it as a word, as part of a grander text, which would be the album, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
I don't know, how do you feel about it?
I don't know. Like I said, most of the covers or remix I heard are just trying to just sing that song didn't seem like they were trying to. Maybe I was just not listening. I'm listening to the song just to be entertained and to have something in the background while I do other stuff. So I hear that other song and it kind of bugs me because it's not like the one I used to know, and most of the time, if not all the time, it doesn't sound as good. So I guess the remixes and the covers that will work for me is if I don't know the original song and I hear that one and it's like, hey, this is a great song. Then, years later you learn, no, it's a cover of another song. Then, you don't bother. It doesn't matter.
You don't listen to the original? I always do. Like, I didn't know Pilot very well. Selena Gomez sang. I quote unquote sang.
Yeah.
It's Magic. I say quote unquote because the girl is a big user of autotune. And again, nothing against Selena Gomez. I think she's actually a really charming actress, but her singing career is sort of an anomaly for me. I'm always curious, like, how did that happen? Because these are not your strength. But I heard Magic, and I thought, like, that's a nice catchy beat, but it has sort of this retro feel, and I certainly know that the writers that she currently has, that is not what they usually compose for her. So I suspect that this has to be a cover, because she sang that for the movie Wizard of Waverly Place. And I checked it out, and sure enough, it was the cover from from Pilot, and I discovered Pilot that way.
Okay. Well, you need to know it's a cover. I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, and you had the intuition of saying, okay, it doesn't sound like what she normally sings, so it's probably a cover. But yeah, if you don't know, like me, most of the time I hear a song, and if I don't know if it's a cover, I'm not gonna search each and every song I hear. Is like, is this a cover or not? I just hear it, and to me, I guess a successful cover is you kind of take a song that's pretty obscure, and you bring it in the limelight, and you sing it, and you bring it to the public so that they can hear it. That to me would be something the kinds of cover I would enjoy.
That's what I meant in a way about just going your own direction. You gotta own it,
Yeah.
The other way, it's like I gotta say, like I'm a fan of Glee. I wouldn't say I'm a big Gleek or anything.
A what?
Gleek. That's what they call themselves.
Wow. Okay.
I'm not, and I'll be straight right here. I think the music in Glee is usually crap. I watch it because I think the jokes are funny, but I think Jane Lynch is hilarious. But the music is like, so. But they of course mostly do covers. They started doing original songs lately, and wow, they're disastrous. But but the cover songs they do, and what I like is when they completely change the style of the song. Like they did Poker Face by, of course,
Lady Gaga.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And they did it as this sort of chamber music ballad thing, and it's with just the piano.
Wow.
It sounds really cool. It sounds like really weird. It's like, what is that song? And everyone's like, and then you go like, boop, 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 Poker Face. I'm like, oh, that is that song. That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. They also improved on Kanye West's Gold Digger, mostly just by just singing it.
Okay. They weren't just talking through it?
Exactly. They sang it without autotune. So
wow.
Yeah, I know. Jamie Foxx's mind just exploded. And I like those again, and I find it's just really changing the style. It's sort of like if you could take a familiar song and make it sound like something new, you've got my attention.
Okay.
But there is exceptions to that. Like I think there are some where it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Which I guess it might as well lead us to the next section of our conversation, which is pet peeves about remixes and covers. We just outlined that right away. It's like, oh, wow, we're being way too positive. Let's talk about what annoys us again.
It is. Well, this is probably for everybody, and it's different for every person. But if there's a song you really, really like, you love that song, and you hear it completely butchered by somebody else, that can be a pet peeve. That's one of the pet peeves of mine. For example, Every Breath You Take by The Police, which was one of my great songs, a song I love, and you hear what P. Diddy did to it. Every time I heard that song, I wanted to just throw the radio on the floor. That song was crap to me, and that's a pet peeve. You take a good song and you completely butcher it. That's it just sounds wrong at the end. That's something I really hate.
Can you be precise about what you mean by butchering it? Because to a certain degree, that just means it being bad. Like what?
He took just the beat, and he just kind of talked to the beat of it, and it just sounded, it wasn't a good song, is the main thing. You listen to it, it's like, this is horrible. If an artist had showed up and the record company, you know, a new artist showed up and hey, listen to this, can you know, I want a contract, they would have said no, but it was P. Diddy, so of course they're going to go with it. But, you know,
the man has furs.
Yeah, it was just a horrible, horrible song that should not have been, you know, made ever.
Well, I don't like that song either, and you know, I certainly won't reproach P. Diddy. I know that he took that song as a tribute to a deceased friend.
Yeah, I know that, and I think it makes it even worse. But
but what I mean is that I don't like the song either. I think his cover of it is utter crap. But I mean, I won't reproach him for taking that song if that's the song that he. How can I say this? It's weird because I'm very ambivalent about that specific topic. It's his choice of song because that song is about stalking.
Yeah.
It's not about love. And he took the song and he didn't really change the lyrics that much. A little bit, but not too much.
I'll be watching you. He said, I'll be missing you.
Yeah. And it's sort of like, it's weird that you take a song about stalking and change a few words to evoke grief. It's weird. And it's distracting. It's sort of like, I know how you feel about your friend. I'm not questioning that, and I don't want to be disrespectful towards that. But at the same time, your choice of song invites so much derision about that. It's like it's so hard for me not to make jokes about it right now, and I don't want to because, you know, he misses his friend. I don't want to make fun of that, but at the same time, it would be so easy.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem. It's like Canadian Idol or American Idol, if you watch those, Jake Gold always says it to the contestants who, for those not familiar with how the contest worked, welcome from under that rock you've been living in.
Yeah.
The contest rules has them singing songs from different artists and blah, 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 and they have to do covers for, 10, 12 consecutive weeks, essentially.
Yeah.
And he keeps criticizing a lot of the young singers, going like, well, if you're going to make this your own, you actually have to understand the song. Have you paid attention to what the lyrics are? Like, he keeps complaining about that a lot of times where they sing songs with a completely inappropriate tone. For example, In the Air Tonight, when people sing it weird, he gets pretty pissed off. It's like, no, that song is about anger, about a breakup. If you're not singing it and making me feel hurt and angry, then you fail, you know?
Yeah.
He's like that, and that's the case with P. Diddy. It's like, have you listened to the song? It's about stalking.
Yeah.
That's one of my pet peeves. Another one is we've mentioned Gangsta Paradise. I sort of hate ghettofication of things, if you will, because ghetto is sort of a culture that comes from an environment. You can't take something from outside that environment and say, like, we're going to make it ghetto. It's like, why?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
and then complain when somebody makes a parody of it because they're not taking it seriously. It's like, okay, you don't understand the whole situation at all.
That track was released with a movie, wasn't it? Michelle Pfeiffer movie.
Dangerous Minds,
yeah.
I think.
And then again, it's sort of that really weird thing, because the Dangerous Minds is a movie that has a white teacher saving black kids. That's what the movie is, and it's another one of those movies from especially that era that tries to be sort of sensitive to what black communities are going through, and mostly comes off incredibly racist.
Okay.
Where you're sitting there going like, this movie would have worked better if you had made it a black teacher. Like,
yeah, probably.
You know?
Yeah, I saw movies, I forgot what it was, but it was a principal that showed up in the school. A black principal showed up in the school, and he started doing the whole thing. Forgot the name of the movie.
Is it Lean on Me with Morgan Freeman?
Might have been, yeah. But he just threw out all the drug dealers and drug users, and you were going to make the school, work or something, and he had to do illegal stuff to make the school better, and he had to pay. But anyway, that was a good movie. But if the principal had been white and he had done all that thing, that wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
So I can see where you're going there.
I am going out of my way to get like a lot of letters today. That's
I guess you are.
Other pet peeves you have?
Well, mine's not going to get any letters, probably. But one thing that's very prevalent in Quebec, because people in Quebec, they know their own culture, and that's about it. So artists take songs that are in English, they translated them in French, and they sing them using the same music, same everything. It's It's a translated song. So it doesn't even have the same flow, the same rhythm, the same nothing. It's just the lyrics in French. And people are like, wow, this is a new song. It's awesome. And they try and pass it off as a new song as well. They kind of mention it as a passing, now it's a cover, but then, it's all about that song. I just hate that.
I gotta say, that's not just to Quebec. Like, Asian countries do that an awful lot.
Okay.
As someone who's of Vietnamese origins, I have to sit through an awful lot of absolute crap Vietnamese pop.
Okay.
That TT songs that also misinterpreted. Like, it's the thing you have to understand about pop music being translated into Asian languages is that most Asian languages already have a musicality to them. So it's actually remarkably difficult to do.
Okay.
Because, there are some songs you can't sing just because it will go against the accent of certain words. So it's really hard to do. So they all tend to be, really slow ballads where they can actually sort of deviate a little bit. Or diva songs, because the singer deviates all the time. Celine Dion.
Oh.
I'm sorry, the woman cannot keep a note without starting to go like, I'm going to do this and riff there and riff there.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's so bad. They're so awful. And it's just terrible. But you know what's worse? Is when they just outright change the lyrics and sing about something stupid instead. With like same melody, but just like different lyrics that are really dumb. Where you talk about Quebec, the French had an artist called Joe Dassin. Who's a very talented vocalist. But he would take songs from The Doors and add like really, really dumb lyrics to them about like mosquitoes biting him. He does that like a number of songs where it's like The Doors, like of all freaking people, The Doors. Like Jim Morrison is studied as a poet. He changed the lyrics to like that would be like taking Tolstoy and adding Transformers to it when you translate it.
Yeah, I mean, one example I remember, like What a Night, December 63, that they translated in French, and at one point they just stopped going with the lyrics and they just went like up, down, left, right, and you're like, what are you doing now? You're not even singing a song, you're just saying general directions. It's ridiculous.
Oh, that's hilarious. You should add, raise your hands in the air, like you just don't care.
Oh, the day that a French artist actually translates that, hands in the air like that, he's getting like tons of angry emails. I'm creating hundreds of email addresses just to spam him.
That would be it. I would love to see that, actually. I would love to see who figures out how to make that rhyme, actually.
Yeah.
I just figured it out.
Oh, don't do
Mettez
it.
vos mains dans les airs, comme pour tout laisser faire.
Oh, wow.
And those who speak French, I hope you enjoyed that. On that note, if you have any questions, comments you want to share with us, write us at mail@idiomatic.com or post a comment at idiomatic.com. We're also on Facebook. We're also on Twitter. And we will see you next time. There's no Nick Caves in the Bad Seeds.
They stole the essence.
Totally. Red Right Hand, and totally. It's a great song. And contrary to popular belief, it is not a song about excessive masturbation.
Oh, wow. You had to go there.
Alright, well, on that note, let's start the episode proper. On that tasteful note. Yeah. And talk about remixes and covers. Well, the first obvious question I have to ask is, do you like remixes and covers, Nick?
No, I don't. And that comes from just empirical data. I've listened to a lot of them, and there hasn't been one that I've liked more than the original. So there's no real point to me in having remixes and covers, since I'm not going to say none of them. Very few of them I've heard are better or, compared to, but most of them are just horrible when you compare them to the original song. And why would I be listening to this when I could just go and listen to the original song?
But aren't we back to that same discussion we had about movies where does a remake actually have to beat the original, or can it just be... And then when she said enough of that, we started singing the song from the Immortals, the Mortal Kombat theme song, Technotronic, which, somehow that did not calm her nerves in any right way.
Nope. Good times. Good times. What about you, Dimitri?
My recommendation for this little show and tell here, since this all started with a line from Scream 4, I thought I'd get us back to Scream for this little show and tell thingy, and talk about Red Right Hand by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. Now, that song is actually featured in the first three Scream movies, a different remix, a different version of it, all three of them, and all three versions are pretty freaking cool. In fact, for me, they're sort of the theme of Scream. And when Scream 4 started and it didn't have that song, Red Right Hand, I was like, what's going on? I was so confused. And like, throughout the entire movie, like, I kept waiting for that song to show up. It never did, and the credits showed up. I was like, what the hell? What? And I like Scream 4 a lot, but like, part of me was like, this is not a Scream movie.
You forgot the first rule of remakes, Jill. Don't fuck with the original.
Hey everybody, welcome to a bonus episode of Don't F with the Original.
With Nicholas, I'm the video game correspondent for Idiomatic.
And I am Dimitri, editor-in-chief of Idiomatic.com and movie critic. Not that that's gonna help us in any way. Because today we're talking about music. As a lot of you know, June 21st is International Music Day. So in this bonus episode, what we're gonna do is have a free-flowing conversation about pop song covers and remixes.
Yeah, they don't have remix, because that'd be a little silly.
Yeah, a cover is just a remix with a different singer.
I guess so, because they never use the actual real original music as well, so it is a remix as well. You're right.
Because if they use the original music and a different singer, then it's called sampling. Unless it's Vanilla Ice that's taken something from David Bowie and Queen.
He added little names, and they use instruments, modern instruments, and they cover those songs. And the result is very impressive. You really feel like it's the song from the video game, just played with real instrument. It sounds great. They have two albums, one called Mini Bosses, and the other one called Brass. So I suggest both of them.
And what are some of your favorite tracks on it?
I like the Mega Man 2. That's probably the best one. The Castlevania one's also great, because the Castlevania was always known to have great music, but really my favorite one is Mega Man 2.
Sounds fun. I actually really like video game music usually, like especially the 8-bit and 16-bit stuff, because that's the video games I mostly grew up with.
Yeah.
I used to drive my girlfriend absolutely nuts. And I mentioned this to you, which is silly, because you used to help me in doing that.
Yes. I was just following along, man.
Weird, what was it? The Mario level 1-2 underground music that we used to sing.
Yeah.
It was great because when we were with her roommate, we all sang it in canon just to drive my girlfriend nuts.
At the end, you hear him in the interview. He had a little, so it's not exactly the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. So if you add a little, then it's called original material.
Exactly.
Or if you take something from Stevie Wonder and add the word gangster to it, suddenly it's your most important work.
That should not be parodied ever.
What are we referring to?
Weird Al. Weird Al decided to make a parody of it called Amish Paradise, and he was completely opposed to it. He was like, no, you can't do that. It's my most serious song, even though it's a remix of another song. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay, but anyway, let's start the episode where it's all about music. I'll admit right away, I am not a music expert. I kind of wish Kazam was still around. She's in Vancouver, enjoying the rain.
Good for her.
So let's start with something I like to call Show and Tell, where we're going to talk about some of our albums that have cover songs in them. Why don't you get us started, Nick?
Well, I'm going to talk about a group called the Mini Bosses. What they do is they basically choose 8-bit songs from the Nintendo era that were great from good games.